Welcome to the CCTA Wake-Up Call. I'm Bob Griswold.
Mary Griswold.
Sherry Hunt, Craven County Commissioner.
Pat Park.
Craven County Sheriff Chip Hughes.
Welcome, everyone. Mary?
We are blessed today to have the Craven County Sheriff and one of the commissioners with us, and we're going to take advantage of that and ask them all kinds of questions. And I'm going to start with you, Sheriff. I'm going to say, what is the most important issue that you feel is facing Craven County right now from the Sheriff's Office perspective?
And really there's two. We continue to keep crime rate down. However, the safety of our educators and students in our schools is at the forefront, always will be. They're our future, and we have to do everything we can to protect and secure our greatest asset, and that's our children. And then the free flow of dangerous, poisonous narcotics that come across our southern border, and within 2 to 3 days travel time on our interstate system make it into North Carolina, specifically eastern North Carolina. So those two things really are what we are putting the bulk of our focus on, as once again protecting our future, our children, and our educators, who, by the way, they want to be educators, they want to educate, and we know for a fact our students learn better when they feel safe, and they retain more. But when we've got a dangerous narcotic like fentanyl, which is coming from China into Mexico and then freely across our southern border in bulk that you cannot imagine with our border being open. I mean, literally every other backpack, at least 2 or 3 tractor trailers out of 10. I mean, I can go on and on, are bringing in fentanyl. Why? It's cheap. It's very potent. They mix it in with everything to include marijuana. So letting your child it's just marijuana. It's not just marijuana anymore. It's marijuana with the potential of it being laced with fentanyl now. So that takes it to a whole new level when you're talking about kids that are experimenting, which most of them do. Now they're experimenting with something that is extremely dangerous in some cases. So that's a huge concern. So I know that's a long answer to your what is the top, but I'm going to say once again, dealing with the fentanyl that is coming into the county and us interdicting it and protecting our children.
And I know, Sheriff, that you had mentioned previously that because Route 95 is actually fairly well patrolled or whatever else, they've decided that Route 17 has to become the major route, and you're trying to make sure that it's not the major route.
Right. It runs parallel with it. It comes right through the middle of our county. We make substantial seizures on 70 and 17. When I mean substantial, I mean kilos of cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, meth, which comes from the super labs in Mexico, that is extremely potent. Very potent, and it looks like literally shards of clear glass now, where it used to be dirty, nasty looking stuff. Now the super labs in Mexico are pumping it out at huge tons, by the tons, and we are the leading consumer of all the above.
That's part of the problem too, is it not?
Well, it is. I mean, when you've got places that think that we need to give them the tools to inject some of this stuff, I don't feel, my opinion is it's not, that is drug paraphernalia. It's, we need to focus on, a lot of our mental health stuff. We need to make sure that there are pathways for making good, sound decisions, healthy living, getting the addicts the help that they need if they're willing to do it. We can't ram it down their throat. We've got the enforcement down pat, but once again, you've heard me say this many times, we can't enforce our way out of it. My job is just to make it so difficult here for them to operate that I hate to say it, that they move to another county or another state to do it. My focus is Craven County. Luckily, I've got like-minded sheriffs around me. Pitt's questionable, but that's where a lot of them are going now, because it's just not a very easy place for them to conduct their business here in Craven County, and that's by design.
And I know your training methods undoubtedly had to change as we've seen, because even even touching some of the packaging or some of the other stuff that may be contaminated with the fentanyl or whatever else. I mean, we don't want the officer on out there
It's
being exposed.
I've had many deputies exposed to fentanyl. We've had traffickers throw fentanyl on them, powder. I've had deputies that have had to be Narcaned. And this is what, I hate to say routine traffic stop because there is not a routine traffic stop, but this is not necessarily an interdiction stop. It could be a speed stop. It could be somebody that ran a stop sign, drove left of center, suspected drunk drive, whatever. You get up there, well, that trafficker doesn't necessarily know that I'm stopping you because you rolled a stop sign or because your tag's out or you got a brake light out. They, in many cases, assume we know what's in the car, and that's why they're getting stopped. So why not,
They react.
take the chance of,
They react.
maybe I can get away. In some cases, it's, these criminals have gotten less time for murdering an officer as opposed to trafficking cocaine back in the day.
Let me make a comment on that. I was a prosecutor in a little town in New Mexico on I-40. The money went west and the drugs went east. We caught a lot of people on the interstate going by, and we would catch them with the same kind of traffic stops you're talking about. They're not wearing a seatbelt, they're speeding. One guy's driving down the highway at the height of summer with all the windows open because he had so much marijuana stuffed in there he couldn't bear the smell. And the sheriff deputy watched him go by and went, "That car needs to be stopped." Actually got the guy to confess by making him feel guilty about his religion. He said, "If you're the guy says, "I'm Catholic." He says, "If you're Catholic, what do you have to do to get right with God?" "I have to confess."
Boom.
"Do you have anything in the car you want to tell me about?" "I have marijuana."
If you can get them to drop that head, you know you've got them.
Yeah.
But it's a learned skill, that the officers get. And once again, we're not out here trying to make bad case law. So, there are times when you've got that hunch, but, the Constitution and, the laws and all that doesn't recognize a hunch. We have to have solid cases, and that's another reason why our conviction rates are so much higher now than they have been before, because we place so much focus on making good, solid cases that we can get convictions on, as opposed to getting them in the courts, they get turned loose, and potentially we make bad case law. And no officer wants to be part of that.
Sheriff, do you get questions from citizens about why you do so many traffic stops and find drugs? Because I used to get questions like, well, if the guy knows he's got drugs in his car, why doesn't he wear his seatbelt? And I would explain to people, you don't get the criminal mind. Your laws have no effect on them. Right. They don't care about your laws. And that includes the seatbelt law, the speeding law, the tail light out.
Right.
They have no concept of the laws that we take for granted. So, yeah, they're speeding down the highway at 98 miles an hour at 12 a.m. in a stolen car, and, of course, the state police stop them, and
that's right.
There you go.
It's, our job is to, because it's clearly, the Constitution, you have to, it's got to be beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's designed that way to give you the benefit of the doubt. We have to prove that you are,
Really? I forgot about that in Trump era.
All right. Yeah, there you go. So, yes, we do things just like, if there's certain parts of things that aren't disclosed in disclosure to the, the defense attorney, if we don't follow the rules of law, any one thing can toss the case, any one thing. So that's why we have to follow it by the letter. And yes, we use everything. Yeah, if you're riding down the road and you've got a license plate light out, well, guess what? I can use Chapter 20, General Statute Chapter 20, to get the vehicle stopped. That's my probable cause to stop, and then it's where we take it from there. And that's how we don't do what we call a lot of whisper stops where we get a call from DEA or ATF, FBI, hey, this is coming. Ours is out there doing good police work, smart police work.
Doing what you should.
Looking for indicators.
Being observant.
Looking for these infractions that the law allows us to stop and warn or cite for clear-cut substantial violations, taking that and building a case.
Now, you're talking about the amount of drugs coming into Craven County, obviously because the border is wide open. Do we have illegal immigrants coming into the county? And is it illegal? In other words, can you be arrested for being in the country illegally?
Well, that's a violation of federal law.
Yeah, it's federal law.
You know,
not state
I
law.
don't enforce federal law. However, I can arrest you for not having a license. I can notify ICE, which we do, and make them aware of the check that we've done. It shows that this person is here illegally. And I can notify ICE, and they can issue a detainer, which I do acknowledge and will enforce for them. The detainer, that gives us so many hours for them to come, and they can choose to pick them up or not.
Okay, if you stopped, let's say I'm here illegally, I'm driving a car, I don't have a license, and you stop me and you realize I don't have a license, what happens next?
Well, there's a couple things that can happen. One, I can cite you and make you walk, have someone come pick you up. It could impound your car if it's on the paved portion of the roadway or the right-of-way. And in a lot of cases, that is what happens just because of the limited resources that we have. But there are occasions, DWI, drive my license revoked, serving an active warrant, that we take them in and we run and then find out whether or not they're legal.
Okay.
And in many cases there aren't. We always notify ICE. Then it's their decision as to whether or not they want to move forward.
What happens next?
Folks, we're going to stop a little bit early and take a break to hear from our sponsors and supporters, and hope you're enjoying the conversation and that you're learning from the conversation. Again, this is CCTA Wake Up Call.
Torque Transmission and Automotive Repair is the transmission physician in the New Bern area. If you're experiencing transmission problems, call Charles Grover at 252-637-2399 or stop by the shop on 17 South in New Bern. Torque can install a new or reconditioned transmission, or they can rebuild your transmission if that's what you prefer. See Torque for a variety of minor automotive repairs like brakes, tune-ups, and water pump. You can count on Torque Transmission and Automotive Repair.
Hey folks, here's a tip. When you think firearms and ammo, think East 70 Palm. They've been on Highway 70 east of New Bern across from the fairgrounds for 31 years. Drew Preston and his staff know firearms. Gun sales have tripled in under a year, and women shooters are the fastest growing part of their business. Their great inventory, over 300 guns in stock, changes daily. And if you want something they don't have, they'll look for it. New and used, rifles, shotguns, and pistols. Buy, sell, or trade. And they also have many holsters, scopes, and other gun accessories. Every member of the staff is deeply knowledgeable, and every one of them is an excellent shooter. So don't just come for the inventory. Come for the thoughtful advice. East 70 Palm, your home for firearms, ammo, and answers. Highway 70 East New Bern, across from the fairgrounds.
For news, commentary, and a different perspective, check out rightwinggranny.com. Hey, Granny's got it going on. See for yourself. Go to rightwinggranny.com.
Moore's Old Time Barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over hickory in the tradition of the Moore's family for over 70 years. Moore's also serves fried chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade side dishes. Open 7 days a week in New Bern, Winterville, Morehead City, Swansboro, and Jacksonville. Moore's will cater and deliver anywhere you want your truly traditional barbecue and fixings delivered. And remember, if it's not Moore's, it's less.
Welcome back. And again, thank you for listening to our sponsors and supporters. Mary?
We have with us Sherry Hunt, who is one of our county commissioners. And one of the things that the commissioners have worked on this year, successfully I think, is the situation at the animal shelter. And I'd like you to kind of review what's gone on and where we are.
Yeah, I love talking about the animal shelter because there's been such tremendous amount of improvement. Having worked in animal rescue for over 20 years, beginning with the Great Dane rescues of the North Carolina and South Carolina group, I moved to work with Colonial Capital Humane Society in 2017 prior to the hurricane. So I have a lot of lived experience with all the animal rescues statewide and locally as well. So I saw firsthand and worked with the problems firsthand before becoming commissioner. So what identified was a need to have a higher skill set at the director level in the animal shelter. And we were able to find that with Dr. Osler, who is also a veterinarian. So Craven County Commissioners all came together and agreed to pay for this director, full-time veterinarian. And I'm proud to say that we are one of 8 counties in the entire state out of 100 counties that actually has a full-time veterinarian on staff. When I went to the state of North Carolina veterinarian associations, I asked the veterinarians if they felt like veterinarian would be a good fit for a county shelter. And they all unanimously agreed that, in fact, any of them would have been a good fit for it, because not only do they go to school to learn how to take care of animals and to be an animal advocate, but they also get a high level of business education so that they know how to document all the income, all the expenses, and so forth and so on. They know how to run a business. So yes, we have to advocate for the animals, but we also have to be transparent with the animals coming in and where they're going when they leave. We also have to be transparent with all the funding. And I believe we've identified that person. Dr. Osler is doing a phenomenal job over there, where the adoption numbers have gone through the roof. Proud to say that at our last board meeting, the Craven County Commissioners has also adopted a resolution to celebrate National Pet Shelter Day. So we'll be starting that on November 30th this year, and hopefully for many years to come. Beginning November 30th, we're going to announce and read the resolution at the county shelter, and that will start off a 3-day event where we will offer reduced pet fees at the adoption center for the November 30th, December 1st, and December 2nd. So come on out and visit the animals there. Hopefully the sheriff will be able to come by and pet some puppies and some kitties and enjoy the day with us at that time. If you have any other questions about the animal shelter, I'll be very happy to brag about it.
I'm thrilled to hear that. That is wonderful news. Is there anything else that you want to bring up that the county commissioners that's been a priority this year?
Well, I'm going to bust in for just a moment, but again, where you mentioned the statistics, one of the things that I griped about to the county commissioners was we didn't see the statistics of the intake, again, the returns, and yes, unfortunately, euthanasia is a fact of life in dealing with it. But I get to see these statistics now, and I'm just so proud to see the statistics. I mean, the improvement and the ability to see the adoptions. I mean, somebody's picked on Facebook for an awful lot to show the adoptions, that show the families that are picking up an animal and giving them a wonderful home, and that's the publicity that's needed. Because this is not a backroom thing that needs to be done. This is something that needs to be done publicly. Again, thank you.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue forth promoting more events through the shelter out in the public. They're going to get outside of the shelter to help encourage people to adopt shelter pets as opposed to adopting animals from pet farms, if you will.
Puppy mills.
Puppy mills, yes, sir.
What do you see as the priorities of the county commissioners at the moment?
Well, I can tell you what two of my priorities are, not
Okay.
so that I don't speak for the other commissioners. Currently, I'm doing some research on specific needs to mitigate flood damage. I love being proactive rather than reactive. And so we're looking at some areas where we may need to clear some more streams. We need to access the Neuse River through these streams. Not just, originally I started looking for ways to mitigate flood damage, but then I found at the same time there was also a need for access for our fire and rescue to help rescue not only our recreators, but also our pilots when they go down. We've had 2 downed aircraft in District 5, the southern end of Craven County in particular. And without access by water, it could really inhibit saving a life of one of our military members. So that's one of the big projects I'm working on. Luckily, I have the support of the North Carolina Marine Fisheries, the North Carolina Wildlife, the Corps of Engineers, CAMA, and of course our local planning and zoning gentlemen at Craven County. They're all working very closely with me, and I'm spending a lot of time on that. The other thing I'm spending a good amount of time on is, all the VA directors out of Raleigh and Durham. I sat down at the table with Director so-and-so and Dr. so-and-so of many different healthcare facilities out of Veterans Affairs. We're working very diligently to get some VA doctors here in Craven County. So while we all support our military, and I'm one of them too, a military veteran, while this is important for our veterans to have access to more health care, it will also directly affect our citizens that are not military. Because if I can get health care, a primary care physician, say for 300 members of our military members, then they leave your doctor's office. Instead of you having to wait 5, 6, or 7 months to get the appointment that you need, if those 300 military veterans have their own primary care doctor provided by the Veterans of Affairs, then you can get your appointment in maybe 2 or 3 or 4 months as opposed to 5, 6, or 7 months. So it will directly affect every person in Craven County.
Yes, and also I would think that if we can move our veterans into veterans care, that this might cut down on some of our insurance costs because they would be covered by the VA rather than have them on an expense of a private medical program. I don't know if that works that way, but that's just a thought.
Can I comment on this as a veteran? I'm assigned to Durham Hospital, so my clinic is in Greenville. When I hate to go there because it's an 80-mile round trip, it's not an insignificant amount of time because, you know, as a veteran yourself, if you go to the VA, you're going to be sitting there for a while before you're seen. And as a female veteran, the VA is trying to, you know, grow services for female veterans. But I didn't know you were working on that. That's a great idea to get the VA to open a clinic in Craven County. And I can imagine that there would be a basis for it, that there's, you know, plenty of us veterans.
There's plenty of veterans here at this time. Craven County has the 3rd highest number of veterans in the state of North Carolina, and that's going to continue to grow. These men and women that I sat down with 2 weeks ago have completed a study where they expect the growth of Craven County to increase by 8,000 to 9,000 veterans within less than 10 years. And part of the reason I attributed this to is our state legislators changing our tax laws. It's making it more attractive for them to stay here when they retire. And I'm seeing that today in my neighborhood of Tucker Creek, where I've had 3 neighbors where they used to talk about moving back to Texas, West Virginia, and Indiana. Now they're saying, no, we're staying right here. And they're not leaving Craven County. They're staying in the home that they've already established.
What's the VA telling you, that they'd have to build a VA clinic? It's a budget priority?
No, they're not looking to build a clinic at this time, but they are looking to get health care here. So that's the
How?
beginning of it, by
How?
providing providers. And we're going to, Craven County Commissioners,
Where would they be housed?
we're going to provide a space in the Craven Community Care Center in Havelock.
Okay. I don't go to Havelock, so I'm not aware of that.
It's a lot,
but that
lot
sounds
closer
like
than
a-
Greenville.
It's closer than Greenville. That is true. That is true.
I want to brag on them real quick for a minute, the commissioners, in regards to school safety, as that's been a priority. They recognize that. This year they funded 4 SROs, and then about 45, 60 days ago funded another one so we could have a second SRO at West Craven High School. We talked about the issues we were having. This is something that needed to be done for years. Havelock, for whatever reason, decided to get out of the SRO program. Our county commissioners picked up the ball, and we're running with it. We still, we have to protect these children. If a municipality gets out of it, it's not an option for us to go, we're just not going to protect the school. We are going to. So they have funded this year five SROs, and honestly, we are going to have to come back to the table within the next couple of years to look at putting additional SROs in our middle schools, because that's where society has taken us.
By SRO, you mean school resource officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now,
I just
One-
assume everybody knew that.
I know, but as prior military, we like to use acronyms.
We do.
We like to throw them around. You don't realize that not
The
everybody knows what you're
SRO.
talking about.
the SRO is there to protect the kids and to keep things safe. But does he or she also serve the purpose of letting kids know that the police are their friends?
Absolutely. They wear multiple hats. A protector, first and foremost, a parent, a mother or father figure at times, an educator, a counselor. They wear many hats.
Because this is the equivalent of the cop on the beat,
Oh, it is.
Where they
These
get
guys
to know-
they're the tip of the spear for our
where they
office.
get to know the people that they're dealing with, and the kids, they get to know who the troublemakers are, the whole thing.
Visibility counts for a lot.
Yes, sir.
Again, thanks for staying with us. We're going to hear again from our sponsors and supporters. Thank you.
People who learn to do something well and do it often get very good at it. Dr. Jay Singleton and his staff spend a lot of time removing cataracts, and they are good at it. Dr. Singleton has been doing a high volume of these procedures for 15 years. Let's face it, once we turn 50, the chances are we'll soon need cataract surgery. Fortunately, the Singleton Vision Center is conveniently located at 3515 Trent Road in New Bern, and the state-of-the-art Singleton Surgery Center is bringing costs down for patients and participating insurance companies. For dedication, experience, and convenience, you can trust the Singleton team. Dr. Jay Singleton and the Singleton Vision Center is conveniently located at 3515 Trent Road in New Bern.
Since 1952, the North Carolina Fisheries Association has been working to ensure access for fishermen and consumers to enjoy fresh local seafood. The North Carolina Fisheries Association is for fair, science-based fisheries management for commercial and recreational fishermen. If you agree with this philosophy, become a member. For more information, log on to ncfish.org. For fresh North Carolina seafood, there's no better place than B&J Seafood, Highway 70 East in New Bern. For news, commentary, and a different perspective, check out rightwinggranny.com. Hey, Granny's got it going on. See for yourself. Go to rightwinggranny.com.
At Professional Auto Service, keeping vehicles in top form and running well isn't just their business, it's the passion of folks who work there. If baling wire and duct tape is good enough, don't go near them. But if you take pride in your vehicle and reliability is important, go to 2215 Country Club Road in New Bern and let Professional Auto take care of your vehicle. You'll be pleased. That's Professional Auto Service, Country Club Road, New Bern.
Welcome back. And again, thank you for listening to our sponsors and supporters. Mary?
I want to talk a little bit about what happened in Israel in the recent weeks about the terror attack. And one of the things that I found out in my research that really bothered me was only 3% of the Israeli population was armed. And I believe that put them at a real disadvantage in terms of having all these people show up and attack them. If they had been armed, they might have been able to, as civilians, they might have been able to do a better job of keeping things a little better. But I want to know, does that attack and the threat of terrorism, does that have any relevance to Craven County?
Who gets that one?
Either one of you.
I feel like I've talked a lot. I mean,
Go ahead.
I'll say, of course it does. There are people that hate our way of life. They hate our freedom. They hate what we're about. They hate that we're Christians. So yes, I think we're always a target. I think a little more heightened now. We have put additional protocol in place to be, not that we're not vigilant, but to be, a little more vigilant and continue to look for suspicious things. It's very unfortunate what happened. Hamas made a huge mistake, as I mentioned on the break. You don't mess with the Lord's people and expect to just walk away unscathed. This is not over. Do I think they will lash out at us? I think there's all indications that there will be. To what extent, I don't know. Right now, in eastern North Carolina, we are monitoring a lot of not only social media, but we have intel sources that we use both at the federal, the state, and local level. And we're not getting any indications right now that we have anything going on here. No civil unrest, no threats that are credible. I don't know about some of the larger cities. I don't know about some of the larger cities that are sanctuary cities or that don't support law enforcement or places that are conducive to mayhem and all that type of rhetoric. So,
Sheriff, let me interrupt you. Do you think Greenville is a place where this kind of thing might raise its ugly head? Because what we're seeing here recently is all the college students coming out and raising hell
Right.
about free Palestine. Do you have any indication that there's anything like that going on at ECU?
we haven't, but you see what took place at Cornell. I mean, that was one individual that went rogue. As you know, that could happen anywhere. It could happen in any of our churches, any of our schools. It knows no boundaries. Our job is to harden our soft targets, be extremely vigilant and visible, and to do everything we can to protect our citizens. Greenville, that's a huge campus, as you well know from being there, ma'am. It is very vulnerable, even though they have police and there's quite a few eyes and they've got elaborate video surveillance systems and stuff like that. It's not hard to penetrate. There's only so many of us. We cannot watch every corner. Every red flag that goes up, about an individual. It's hard to track all of that. But we are doing our part here in Craven County. I feel very good about our safety, not only at our churches, because we've been in just about every church and had talk with them about security, what to look for, anything suspicious, report it to us. We are active in community watch as well. We're ratcheting it up a little bit. Like now you might be looking for a few more things, but we got through Halloween last night, unscathed, no incidents. We were out in full force though, so I think here locally we're doing the best we can with what we have, and I feel very good about the safety and security of our citizens.
I wanted to add, we have a daughter who went to Cooper Union in New York, and I know Cooper Union was one of those schools where apparently the Jewish students were corralled into the library for their own security and whatever else. Well, you're looking at a city that essentially 9% of New York City is Jewish, and all of a sudden they were under siege. And the hard part to understand is that you and I generally, I'm talking to the public also, generally think that all people are created equal, whereas what we're looking at in the Hamas is only the Hamas or only the Muslim, I'm going to speak with a broad brush, they're the only people. Everybody else is less than human. So they don't have the problem of feeling guilty when they go and
do the things they did.
Do the things they do. They don't use the same sense of reasoning that we use, and that's very scary.
They read the Quran, and the Quran has different instructions than what the Christian Bible does. The bigger problem and the concern I would have for the United States would be a society that doesn't know history is doomed to repeat it.
Yes.
And that's what I'm seeing in some of these larger municipalities and universities, and it's very concerning.
We have somehow forgotten to teach our children not to be prejudiced. We've gotten rid of some prejudice, but it seems like the anti-Semitism in this country is getting scary.
I don't think they're learning it at home, Mary. I think they're learning it in school. Maybe
That's
not,
very
maybe not
possible.
elementary school, but certainly in college.
Yes.
They've got leftist professors that are ginning up this hate. I mean, one of them from Cornell said he was exhilarated by the Hamas attack.
You know, Sheriff, you were recently able to go out to Claremont Institute, I think, to understand a little bit more about the Constitution that we're under. And I appreciate the fact that you went out there. And I'm not sure how to get general population to understand where our Constitution wants to keep us.
Right, it is. And that was, really about, and what a great opportunity. I was with, 8 other very conservative constitutional sheriffs that believe in the rule of law, believe in law and order, love the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. That's what we live for, but we also know that, our offices are that line of defense. We are, and we take that very seriously. And the part of that program, what it was all about, was empowering us and educating us on, the authority we have, how to use it properly, and that what our job really is, and that is to protect our people. And we've got the Constitution that stands behind us.
Well, speaking of the Constitution, our Constitution enshrines our rights that the Founding Fathers believed in, which meant we had a God-given right to self-defense. It's not granted by the government. It exists outside of the government. It's intrinsic to us as humans here in America. We're the first country to be founded on those principles. Now, I don't know what Israel's Constitution says, but they have some of the strictest gun laws in the world. So I would assume that they don't have in their government a God-given right, which the government cannot take away. Obviously, they take away people's right to self-defense by restricting gun possession. So it shouldn't shock us that other countries don't view gun control or gun possession in the same way. And here's what happens when you don't. And you would think that historically, as the Jews came into Israel, and especially from the Holocaust, and their motto is never again, that they would have had a different attitude towards gun possession.
Well,
so
early
it's
on-
surprising.
Early on in the late 1940s, in the kibbutzes, everybody was armed because they were defending themselves constantly against Arab attacks. But they got lazy. I mean,
Yeah, they got lazy, they got complacent.
yeah, that's a better word.
Well, as you were saying with the college professors, when we now hear about college professors become, quote, civilized, okay, meaning we're all going to become peaceful, we've got to remember Ronald Reagan, and a lot of others say, we'll be peaceful when we're armed strong enough so you don't try to come at us.
One of the things, too, talking about the Constitution, one of the interesting things, we're doing a study right now of a book called The 5,000-Year Leap, and it's about the documents behind the Constitution, what went into the writing of the Constitution. One of the things that it talks about is the political spectrum of our founding fathers. The political spectrum of our founding fathers was very different than our political spectrum now. They didn't look at it in terms of right and left. They looked at it in terms of tyranny and anarchy, and their goal was to try to find something in the middle. And we have totally perverted that. and forgotten how it worked.
Well, you know, right and left came from the French Revolution.
I didn't know that. Thank
Yes, yes, the Jacobins and whatever the other party was called, that's where right and left came from. And the Founding Fathers would have wanted nothing to do with the
Yes.
outcome of the French Revolution.
Well, one of the things we've learned is that our republic is based on basically Moses' father-in-law. Because when Moses' father-in-law came to the Jews in the desert, his name was Jethro, and he looked at all the work that Moses was doing, he said to him, you can't do all this. You need to divide people in groups, put somebody in charge of the group, and the minor problems are handled within the group, and then the major problems come to you. So essentially, Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, set up the concept of a representative republic.
Folks, we're going to stop again to hear from our sponsors and supporters. Thank you again for staying with us.
Torque Transmission and Automotive Repair is the transmission physician in the New Bern area. If you're experiencing transmission problems, call Charles Grover at 252-637-2399 or stop by the shop on 17 South in New Bern. Torque can install a new or reconditioned transmission, or they can rebuild your transmission if that's what you prefer. See Torque for a variety of minor automotive repairs like brakes, tune-ups, and water pump. You can count on Torque Transmission and Automotive Repair.
For news, commentary, and a different perspective, check out rightwinggranny.com. Hey, Granny's got it going on. See for yourself. Go to rightwinggranny.com.
The God and Country Christian Alliance has a simple mission, but it is a profound one. They want to inform and educate the public on issues of moral and political concern. They want to restore the Judeo-Christian values upon which this nation was founded to all levels of government. And they want to encourage and activate pro-family voters. Simple, but not easy. The God and Country Christian Alliance meets the third Monday of every month at Moore's Barbecue on MLK in New Bern. Meetings begin promptly at 7 p.m. and end by 8:30. To enjoy dinner with the group before the meeting, arrive between 6 and 6:30. Both the food and the company are good. Meetings include speakers and discussion, and their annual banquets are legendary. Join them on the third Monday of each month for a refreshingly candid view of the world and our place in it.
Just who are these people doing this CCTA program? They're people like you, a photographer, someone that ran their own business, someone retired from the military. Just people in the community that love this country and have a desire to do their part to lower taxes and shrink government, to protect individual liberty, and to preserve the U.S. Constitution and free enterprise system. We welcome you to come out to a meeting. If you like what you see and hear, there's a place where you can contribute to the cause. To learn more, go to cctaxpayers.com. That's cctaxpayers.com. The group meets every third Tuesday at Stanley Hall Ballroom in downtown New Bern to enjoy a fantastic speaker and report on CCTA activities since the last meeting. If you've been disappointed with rising taxes and government intrusion, don't just complain. Join Coastal Carolina Taxpayers Association and make your voice heard.
Welcome back. And again, thank you for listening to our sponsors and supporters. Sherry, do you want to?
Yes, I'd just like to mention a couple events that are quickly approaching. The Wall That Heals, a 3/4 scale replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial from Washington, D.C. The Moving Wall That Heals is here in Havelock, North Carolina. Opening remarks are tomorrow at 0900.
Wait a minute. This is being recorded on Wednesday. So you need to...
November 2nd,
Okay.
opening remarks at 0900. On November 3rd at 10:30, the Air Force Band will be performing. Closing remarks is going to be November 5th at 13:30 by former Craven County Commissioner, former Havelock City Commissioner, and retired Master Gunnery Sergeant George Liner, who's also a Marine Corps veteran of Vietnam. He'll be doing the closing remarks on Sunday at 13:30. I'd like to also mention Operation Green Light for Veterans. That's occurring across Craven County, November 6th through November 12th. We'll be lighting up our Craven County buildings green for our veterans. I would invite any of our citizens to change their light bulbs out to green lights in support of our veterans. November 10th, the world's finest fighting force will celebrate its birthday, the United States Marine Corps. And I
Well,
hope
you've already started your celebration.
Are you a Marine?
I'm a Marine. I started celebrating last
Okay.
Friday in Greenville.
The Air Force, we get no respect.
Sorry.
But our chow halls were really, really good.
We did like eating at your chow halls.
Yes, and staying in our housing.
Yes.
I did enjoy
By the way,
that.
folks, if you see this, if you're listening to this show again Saturday morning, don't forget Saturday, Moorhead, the largest Veterans Day parade, I believe, in the country, is happening here in Moorhead.
Very exciting.
Just stay tuned to that. It really, really is. And I think at the end of the parade, Pete Benton, I think, said the drill team will be marching in the parade and then also performing after the parade is over.
The Air Force
I've seen
drill
them
team.
very
Well, that you said the band, Air Force band, was going to be at the wall. As I understand it, it's the drill team.
Yes, I misspoke. It is the
Okay.
Air Force drill team.
Yeah, that's why I'm going.
And they're
on the
going to
3rd.
be at Havelock High School and Roger Bell Elementary School, as well as the Veterans Parade.
great.
And please remember, November 30th at Craven Pamlico Regional Animal Shelter, where we'll be celebrating Shelter Pet Day.
Very good.
That's the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
I want to go back to the wall that heals. Would you run through, when is the Air Force drill team going to be there?
The Air Force drill team is November 3rd at 10:30.
Actually, folks, that's before this show goes on the air.
Okay, we're on the 4th.
So what will they have missed?
Well, this is what
Yeah.
you'll have missed.
Yes,
That's right.
you will have missed the
The
wall that
top
heals.
1% of the Air Force. I think you have to be in the top 1% of your unit or something to even be considered. And then
Be
there's
considered,
tryout.
yeah.
It's very, very impressive, and what an honor.
And they will be there till Sunday afternoon.
Not the drill team.
But the wall will be there till 1:30 on Sunday afternoon.
So if you're listening to this show and you did not see the drill team, you will not see the drill team. Basically, it's what that amounts to, right?
That's
Would that
the
be
way
correct?
it's gonna
But you
work.
can see
Okay.
the wall.
But you can see the
can
wall,
see
and
the
that's the
wall, yeah.
important thing.
It really is.
The wall's
we got to
open
ask-
24 hours a day.
We got
And-
to escort that in,
And
which
they're
was really
looking
cool
for
too, by the way.
volunteers.
Yes,
They're looking for volunteers.
they do still have some openings.
And folks, that wall means an awful lot to the veterans of that era, and it
I
really
wanted
does.
to comment on Mary's thing about 1965. I graduated in 1969. My brother was 2 years behind me, and he chose not to enlist. He wanted to wait to see if he was drafted, and he was drafted right after they ended the war, or right before they ended the war, so he didn't have to go. I enlisted during the war, knowing that I wasn't going to Vietnam. I mean, Vietnam, I wasn't even thinking about that because they didn't send women to combat areas. I guess they sent nurses there,
They
but
sent
they didn't send the
nurses
rest
there.
of us. Yeah.
But that was, again, 1965 was the largest graduating class in the country because of the baby boom, because 1965 generally was born in 1946 or 1947 or 1948, which was after the troops got back. And if you didn't go to college, you got drafted.
Yeah.
And they needed you in Vietnam. And one of the people we knew in the Navy got drafted, and they drafted a whole bunch of people, and they went down the row, and they went Air Force, Marines, Navy, Army. And you were chosen, they chose your
Yeah, I was
service.
wondering how they chose that. What was the selection process?
Well,
Random.
mostly if you were drafted, you
Random.
went into the Army. But there were situations where other services were low, and they lined them all up and just, A, B, C, D.
Now, I'm going to add my anecdote is that Christmas Eve, 1965, I get home from work, and there's the mail for me. Greetings, Uncle Sam wants you in the military. So I got my draft notice, Christmas Eve, 1965.
How much notice did you have?
Well, I had to go for the draft physical, I think, like I said, Christmas Eve, 65, went for the draft physical January 7th or 8th or something like that. So about 2 weeks in advance notice.
2 weeks notice.
What was your
Wow.
draft number? What was
No,
your draft?
No, they
no,
didn't
they
have
didn't have
draft
them?
numbers then.
Didn't have a draft number. And I was part-time student. I wasn't a full-time student.
So you
a
couldn't get a
part-time student.
deferral.
And I was working in New York City in a motion picture studio and recording studio. And we had been working on military films. I did have a clearance. I had a pretty good clearance. And working on from the civilian side, I talked to folks that I was working with, training films, and they went and said you should join Navy, Group 9, with the aviation group, become a photographer's mate. We'll put you on the exact same crew from the military side instead of the civilian side. I did everything that they said. I never heard from them ever again, but I was naval aviation, and I got to chase a lot of submarines in the North Atlantic for the next few years. So
I never knew anyone who died during Vietnam. I don't know anyone who died.
Oh.
However, a couple of friends of mine and my uncle died from Agent Orange.
Yes.
So that brings Vietnam back into our memories. And watching them die of Agent Orange has been a sad experience.
Well, we lost classmates, and we also lost people who never really came back, who came back physically but
Right.
never came back mentally. And that was the really sad part,
yeah, a lot of people left their minds over there,
Something happened.
including the fellow that introduced us to
Yes.
each other.
But something
was that-
happened to that generation.
Yeah, but we've
with
had to
that
learn.
war.
But we've had to learn that lesson again because the GIs that came home from Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait have the same PTSD issues that the Vietnam vets have, and it seemed like it was a surprise to people that the vets had PTSD.
I think, Pat, I might want to challenge you just a little bit because I think the ones from the Afghanistan or whatever else probably have endured more deployments than the ones in Vietnam. Vietnam, yes, you had a
Yeah, but my
deployment,
point was
maybe two. Yes,
that Vietnam vets had PTSD, and
Right.
then all this time intervened, and now we hear about the vets that we have from Iraq and Afghanistan, and people seem to be surprised.
they're surprised
that they have
because we
PTSD.
don't learn from history.
No,
Yeah.
we haven't.
One of the nicest and unexpected events, we were visiting grandchildren in New York. And sometimes when you visit kids and grandkids, you get taken places that you normally would not go. And this was when they were younger, and we were taken to breakfast with Santa. Okay, I can do breakfast with Santa, whatever. So we walk in. Breakfast with Santa was put on by a combination of the Christian Motorcycle Association and the Hells Angels. And they were working together to put on a breakfast to welcome back and raise money for the Iraqi veterans, because a lot of them were Vietnam veterans, and they knew how they were treated when they got home. But I walked in, and I was blown away, because they had their signature jackets on. You're walking in, and you see somebody with a Christian Motorcycles of America standing there working in the kitchen next to somebody with a Hell's Angel jacket on. It's like,
Cognitive
what
dissonance.
have I walked
Yes.
into? But it was, and we sat with the Gold Star family, and it was an amazing breakfast. But they learned from their experience. They knew how they were treated when they came home, and they said, we're not going to let this happen again to any other military. And they were able to overlook their obvious differences to put on that breakfast.
Did you know that acupuncture is recommended for GIs that have PTSD, and that the VA will refer them to acupuncture? We have an acupuncturist in downtown New Bern who the majority of her clients are GIs with PTSD, referred there by the VA. I did not know
Interesting.
that.
That probably makes sense because you're dealing with nerves, you're dealing with sensory overload, and you're dealing with sensory stuff. I don't know. That's
don't either.
amazing.
It is very interesting.
Okay, folks, we've got to fill another 2 minutes, so let's go.
Hey, I have something about Riley Gaines.
Yes, please.
Okay.
She's
Go
going to
ahead.
be our speaker at the Reagan Day dinner. She was speaking to 600 people at the University of Wyoming, and she mentioned the Kappa sorority members, calling them inspiring. They're the women who were forced to take a transgender male into their sorority, and they sued their sorority organization to try to keep him out. They were really, you can imagine the safety issues. Here's this guy, and he's a really huge guy, and they said he would sit in the living room with a pillow in his lap and stare at him. So you can imagine that atmosphere if you're a young girl joining a sorority. And so she was saying how inspiring she felt it was that they were willing to sue over that issue. The other issue that came up at the University of Wyoming was that Wyoming apparently is working on a statute to define what a woman is, because the girls that sued, they lost at the trial level. So they're appealing it. And they feel that the reason they lost at the trial level is that there wasn't a statute that the judge could rely on to define what a woman is. So I know.
Didn't the vice president have a problem with that at some point?
Somebody
Couldn't
did.
define what a woman was?
Somebody
Well, the statute that's online for Wyoming is a person who produces ova is a woman. If you don't do that, you're not a woman.
The person, the woman that went to the Supreme Court,
Yes.
she was asked that question.
And she couldn't answer
She
it.
couldn't define
Right.
what a woman was.
She
so-
said she wasn't a
Yeah, that was
biologist.
it. Why did I don't know.
She wasn't a
For some reason I thought-
biologist, yeah.
But
Oh,
she's
and-
on the court now.
And she's on the court.
And another thing about Riley Gaines is her event was being advertised on Eventbrite, which is a website that sells tickets to various events. They pulled the page on her event saying that she was going to inspire violence, et cetera, didn't meet their community standards. So somebody said it was time for Eventbrite to get the Bud Light treatment.
Okay. Folks, that's all that we've got for today. Thank you for listening to the CCTA Wake Up Call.
At Professional Auto Service, keeping vehicles in top form and running well isn't just their business, it's the passion of folks who work there. If baling and wire and duct tape is good enough, don't go near them. But if you take pride in your vehicle and reliability is important, go to 2215 Country Club Road in New Bern and let Professional Auto take care of your vehicle. You'll be pleased. That's Professional Auto Service, Country Club Road, New Bern.
Moore's Old Time Barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over hickory in the tradition of the Moore's family for over 70 years. Moore's also serves fried chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade side dishes. Open 7 days a week in New Bern, Winterville, Morehead City, Swansboro, and Jacksonville. Moore's will cater and deliver anywhere you want your truly traditional barbecue and fixings delivered. And remember, if it's not Moore's, it's less.
The County Compass is a rapidly growing, free weekly newspaper throughout eastern North Carolina. At the County Compass, we believe small business is the future of our great nation. Many small business owners have discovered that an ad in the County Compass each week is the most effective, the most affordable way to reach thousands of readers from all walks of life. At the County Compass, we focus entirely on local and regional news, coverage of important issues that directly affect your life. At the County Compass, we love our readers and we love our advertisers. This Thursday and every Thursday at more than 750 distribution points throughout eastern North Carolina, pick up your free copy of the County Compass newspaper.
Since 1952, the North Carolina Fisheries Association has been working to ensure access for fishermen and consumers to enjoy fresh local seafood. The North Carolina Fisheries Association is for fair, science-based fisheries management for commercial and recreational fishermen. If you agree with this philosophy, become a member. For more information, log on to ncfish.org. For fresh North Carolina seafood, there's no better place than B&J Seafood, Highway 70 East in New Bern. For news, commentary, and a different perspective, check out rightwinggranny.com. Hey, Granny's got it going on. See for yourself. Go to rightwinggranny.com.